Welcome to this edition of On the Scene. I'm your host, Tim Kelly. On today's program, we're going to talk about the new Suffolk Municipal Building and E911 call center that's in the construction phase as we speak here in the heart of downtown Suffolk. So you can find out exactly what's already happened, what's going to be happening, and also the end dates when everything's going to kind of wrap up and we'll have this brand new facility to call our own. Stay tuned. Welcome back to On the Scene. Today we're talking about a very exciting topic. We're talking about the new Municipal Center and E911 call center that's going in here in downtown Suffolk. And to help us go through the entire project today, we have our Deputy City Manager, Patrick Roberts, and Gary Jones, the Director of Capital Programs and Facilities with the City of Suffolk. So gentlemen, again, we're talking about a very big building, a very big time here in the City of Suffolk. And of course, we've already gotten the ball rolling a little bit. You've seen some changes in and around the immediate area. But let's back up for just a second and talk about why we need a new municipal center and E911 call center. So Patrick, I don't know if you want to start us out and kind of talk about some of the philosophy behind what we're trying to accomplish here.
Sure, thank you, Tim. We actually started back on this around 2009. We recognized we had a number of facility needs coming due in the next few years, a big one being the replacement of the E911 call center. The early estimates for that started out in the range of $15 million, and so we knew that had a significant price tag with it. That's part of what's the current municipal center. So we evaluated the structural integrity, the rigidity of the building, as well as the longevity of the major building systems, HVAC, plumbing, roofing, etc. And we realized that while this building has served us well, we've had various uses in the municipal building for probably 50 years, close to now. A lot of those major systems need to be either replaced or upgraded significantly. So in 2010, as part of the capital plan, we embarked on a facilities master plan, and that included looking at what is the cost of how we do business today? What does it cost us to maintain facilities, lease facilities all throughout the city, and how do those facilities serve us as employees and the people that we serve, the general public? And what we developed was a master plan to replace or repair a number of facilities with several goals in mind. One, develop facilities that will last us another 50 years, address our pressing needs such as the 911 call center, but also allow us to use our facilities as a tool to provide better service, more comprehensive, coordinated service to the public. A major goal that we had in mind, though, back in that master plan of 2010 was to accomplish all that without any significant increase in cost to the taxpayer on a year-to-year basis. Right. And so we presented those findings, the preliminary results, back to City Council in 2010. Out of that master plan came the replacement of the Municipal Center as one of several key projects. So that's what we're talking about today. Okay.
And of course, if you come by the current Municipal Center located at 441 Market Street, you might be thinking, well, the building's still there, but obviously one of the entrances has been closed.
That's right.
Because of some structural, I guess, integrity issues that we had on that corner of the building. Right. And then obviously if you walk through the hallways, you can see some interesting things. You guys are both smiling here talking about it, but Gary, you want to talk about some of the things that if you come to the current building, I'm not saying come for the show, but you kind of see some of the issues that Patrick had addressed in his opening comment there.
And that's absolutely right. As Patrick mentioned, one of the reasons for the new facility is the condition of this current facility. This current facility was built in 1962. As Patrick said, it's just over 50 years old. 2006 or so, we began to notice some issues, specifically in the rear of the building in the old police headquarters, where we had some failing floor systems going on there, which started the problems. That has since manifested itself throughout a good portion of the rest of the main building. We have a series of voids underneath the building that have been stabilized the best we can do it, but obviously the building has some ongoing issues. Yes. Structural being one of them, infrastructure being another, the piping systems, as Patrick mentioned, the HVAC systems. As you mentioned, the northwest entrance to the building was closed a couple of years back at a suggestion of our structural engineer. There are some other issues going on with that doesn't make that the most safe condition to allow the public to enter the building. And so that coupled with the space needs, as Patrick has mentioned, having all of our departments in one facility has facilitated the need for a new facility. So looking forward to moving forward. This building is obviously costing a lot of money to operate because of its inefficiencies and some of its ongoing issues. So I think in the long term it's a cost savings to the citizens to build a new building, gets us out of numerous number of lease spaces, as well as cut down a long-term operational costs.
Sure. I know one of the things, Patrick, you mentioned again off the top was the fact of consolidation of services, and we've used the phrase or heard the phrase associated with the new building, one-stop shop.
That's right.
And talk about the philosophy of how that's going to be incorporated in this new building design. Again, we have some of the schematics behind us, some of the mock-ups there, but talk about what we're talking about when we mention one-stop shop.
That's right. What we envision is if you're a family moving to Suffolk, or if you're a family moving in Suffolk from one home to another, or if you're starting a new business or building a new site such as a commercial property or a new home, a lot of permitting is required of that, a lot of review from various government agencies, particularly city and state agencies. A lot of those services initiate right here in the Municipal Center. However, currently we require you to go and visit other offices, including the State Health Department, other state agencies, as well as the Public Works Department, Public Utilities. A lot of those are located all throughout the city.
Right.
And so to really complete a complex transaction, to get something started, you really have to visit a number of facilities. Our goal is that, again, if you're a new homeowner or contractor, you want to park your car one time, come in, deal with the city, get all of your permitting and applications done, and be able to accomplish that all in one stop. So that's the philosophy behind a one-stop shop.
And of course, we're still talking about a two-story building.
That's right.
But again, a lot of the services you're talking about are located on the first floor. So you walk in and there'll be actually enter the building really from one of two sides. But again, the primary entrance, everything is pretty much right there and be easily directed and again, easily accessible, as you noted.
That's right. We want to be able to provide an open, friendly environment for people to come into and be able to see clearly all of the offices they need to deal with.
Right.
We even see the potential to have multiple departments provide service at one counter, such as in the planning, community development, and public works counter that a lot of builders and contractors have to deal with. Long-term thinking, we're also setting up our interrelation of our departments with new software so that we can begin to migrate some of these transactions out to the web, so that ideally, while we're creating a new city hall, we envision a virtual city hall that people can be able to access from their home, online, et cetera.
And again, that makes it easier for everyone to, again, as you access services, and certainly if you can do that, you save a lot of time and resources of your own, like you said, not having to run around and do all the business at various locations. So it's a big assistance there.
And that idea, Tim, if I can add,
Sure.
the way we want to initiate this idea of people getting virtual services or visiting us online, we plan to install one or more kiosks in the building as well to orient people with our website, orient people with self-service transactions that you can do now or in the near future, so that maybe the first time someone does a complex transaction, they are required to come to City Hall, but they can learn about our online systems that will be available in the future and be able to be more comfortable with that and do those things from off-site.
Got it. Gary, can you also talk about some of the other features of the building that are in the design phase here? And also, if you would, talk about who is helping us with this project and is coordinating the design and the build portion that we're talking about.
Sure. Let me start with the firm that's been selected through the procurement process. We've selected the design build team of Amada Hoffler and HBA. And you heard me say design build because it's a different process that's used so that you have a designer and a contractor as one entity, as opposed to the standard design bid build process where we design it, then bid it, then get a separate contractor. The advantage of taking this approach is it consolidates all those under one entity, which gives us one source to deal with. On a project this complex, that's a big benefit. We recently used that process to facilitate the construction of the Health and Human Services building. And that went very well. That one had a very tight time schedule, and that process facilitates that type of schedule. Same thing with this particular project. So Marta Hoffler and HBA has been selected to do that. Some of the things that we've done with the building, as Patrick has touched on, and you've touched on, is that all the public amenities are located on the first floor. Once again, to make them very simple and very easy to use. The whole theme of this project is customer service.
Correct.
Easy interaction, easy business transactions. So that all of our public spaces on the first floor: Treasurer, Commissioner of Revenue, Planning, Community Development, Human Resources, all the heavily used public spaces. Then, of course, all of the day-to-day administrative functions: the city manager's office, the city attorney, public works engineering, public utilities engineering. Those functions are on the second floor, away from a lot of the public traffic. The building itself, some of the features of the building, there's as you mentioned, 2 entrances to the building. It's really we call it 2 fronts. You have the West Washington Street entrance, which is the main ceremonial entrance to the building. And there will be some on-street parking along with the improvements on West Washington Street to facilitate entrance on that side of the building. But the majority of the parking and public entrance will be on the north side of the building, which is currently pretty much the spot that this existing building sits on right now.
Right.
So the majority of the public will likely enter the building on that entrance.
Okay.
As you come into that building, some of the main public spaces, the city council chambers, that's heavily used space for many of the public meetings, is the facility, is the entrance that the majority of the public will use. As you come into the building, you have your service desk, your security desk, and then a large public lobby that facilitates a lot of public activities. As you mentioned, a two-story building, 115,000 square feet. That brings all of our departments, with the exception of one, I believe it is, Parks and Rec Administration, brings all of our departments under one roof.
Okay.
And not only does it make for better customer service to the public, but it makes for better customer service between departments.
Right.
Cuts down on a lot of the operational costs of staff traveling between buildings to take care of day-to-day business. So much needed project, which in the long term is going to benefit everybody involved, public and staff.
Okay. What's the square footage difference between what we're going to be building versus what we have now?
The current building we're in is about 56,000 square feet, so you're looking at roughly twice the size of the existing City Hall building.
And again, we mentioned the E911 Center. We're going to talk about that, and also maybe if you come out to the current municipal building, and of course behind us, or depending on how you orient yourself, behind us is where the work site's going to be. We'll talk about kind of what's going on now, what you can expect in the future. We'll have all of that when we return. Welcome back to On the Scene, joined again by Patrick Roberts and Gary Jones, talking about the new Municipal Center and E911 call center. And we'll talk about the E911 portion of the building, talk about what enhancements will be made from where we currently situate to what we're going to have when this new facility is put in place.
Sure. With the E911 call center specifically, we're looking at a facility that takes our public safety response capabilities light years ahead of where we are now. We're converting from an old analog system to a totally new digital system, which is what we refer to as P25 compliance. That's a federal regulation that sets us up for interoperability with all the other localities in the region. Provides for a lot of expansion space so that we can add dispatchers and call takers as the needs arise over the next several years.
Sure.
Also, our radio equipment, all of the technology needs that go along with that will be housed within the same facility, again for ease of repairs, expansion, and an overall enhanced level of service. Outside of the call center itself, we're going from 3 911 towers to a total of 5 towers across the city to provide that digital coverage to an expanded area, provide better indoor capability for our portable radios, our handheld radios for our police and fire first responders. So we're really looking at a total enhancement of our 911 response and our field force automation when it comes to our public safety staff.
You mentioned the towers. I know currently there's a tower that sits directly behind the current municipal building.
That's right.
Now that one will be coming down, correct? And then we'll be
will.
putting a new one in. Where will the new one be situated, at least in the immediate area here?
The new primary tower, which will be linked with the additional 4 auxiliary towers, will be located behind the existing Human Resources building at the terminus of Henley Place or Welland Street. And that tower will be approximately 300 feet tall. It's a self-supporting tower, and so it will be non-obstructive. It won't take up a large land area, but it will be located out of the way behind the Human Resources building.
Got it. Okay. Now, as we mentioned before the break, you know, again, you're thinking, okay, well, when's this all going to happen? And of course, things have already been, as you, Patrick, as you noted off the top, it's been happening for quite some time. But now you're starting to see some physical signs that things are moving forward. And Gary talked about, if you come out to the site now, what are you going to see, and maybe what are some of the next steps and things you'll see evolving over time?
Yes. The first thing you'll see happen is, as you mentioned, has gone up is the construction fencing. What we've done is we've pretty much vacated all of the staff parking and some of the public parking to the south of the building. If you drive by now, it's pretty vacant. So we've had to make the internal adjustments in relocating staff parking.
Correct.
So I think everybody's fallen into that groove right now. So it's been a little bit of a challenge, but we're making it happen.
Sure.
So that's the first thing you'll notice is a big change. The next thing you'll notice is probably the middle of this month, towards the end of the month, 18th or so, you'll start to see work starting to happen on Henley Place and Market Street. where they'll be installing new storm line. So that'll be the first major disruption you'll start to see. We'll make the adjustments so that we'll minimize the impact to the public, traveling public, as much as possible. But just want to make everybody aware that when these things start to happen, they will happen. They'll happen in phases, and they'll be temporary as they happen.
Sure.
So, and then shortly after that, within the next couple of months, you'll actually start to see the building pad, what we call the building pad, the building footprint start to go into place. Foundation work on the building pad, and then eventually in the next few months, starting to see vertical construction starting to happen. So as we get into the summer months, you'll really start to see the building itself start to take on its form. So we'll ask the public to be patient as we move forward through the process, because it will be a challenge for everyone, but the end product is going to be something that's going to benefit the entire city.
You mentioned about some of the adjustments already as far as with the parking situation. If someone comes to the current site, where are the parking for the public, certainly for staff as well? Some of it's intermingled, but obviously we have some designated visitor parking already pre-allocated.
Yes, we do. Most of the public is familiar with the existing the north lot, which is just to the front of the existing municipal building. That is still public parking, although we've had to integrate some of our staff parking into those facilities. Into that facility, the majority of the visitor spots are still there.
Correct.
We've had to relocate some of our day-to-day inspection vehicles and service vehicles off-site to make space for the traveling public. So the public itself, along with parking on Market Street and on Henley Place for limited periods of time during construction, the public will still be able to utilize the majority of the spaces that it was using before. So it won't be much of a change from a public standpoint, but it's been a big adjustment for the staff. And making the space as available as possible for the public.
Now, you know, one thing to talk about, and I don't think we've mentioned this so far. What is the end date? You know, again, we're just talking about the beginning, but and also in conjunction with that, talk about the fact that I believe there are 3 phases with this project. So we could talk about how the phasing is going to occur, and also again maybe when everything will be done. But you could mention the dates again with the phasing deadlines, or I should say deadlines, but the estimations of when these projects and these portions are going to be complete.
Sure.
Gentlemen?
Gary can share with you the dates, but I'll describe the 3 phases that people will begin to see. The first one is the turnover to the city of the portion of the building that will house that 911 call center. That's of critical importance, and while it will look like one building, that's almost a different type of construction within the building that sets apart from the total building itself. That will be turned over early in spring.
Early spring of 2014.
2014, and then the second phase of the building, which is the turnover of the total building to the city for furniture and fixtures, that's in September of 2014. And then the third phase is the demolition of the current municipal facility to create site work and parking, which completes it, and that will be about the first quarter of 2015.
Okay. All right. So again, but a pretty fast-moving project considering the scope of what we're talking about here, correct?
Yes, it is.
That's right.
Yes, it is.
Now, as far as in conjunction with the phases, I mean, phase 1, again, the E911 Center will be activated. So again, they'll be moving out of the current site into that position there.
We'll be actually operating until we're certain that we've covered all of the city with the digital coverage, and we've worked out all the kinks and bugs of a new system. We'll actually be operating 2 911 call centers at one time. We'll be staffing the new one, but in case there's any glitches, anything to be worked out, the current 911 call center will be fully functional indefinitely until we're sure we're ready to cut over. And that's what every locality goes through.
Sure, exactly. So that's phase 1.
That's right.
And phase 2, again, as you noticed, was the turnover, really the rest of the building, so to speak.
Yes.
And then again, that'll be the move out of the current facility into the new facility. And then what is the timetable? How long do we think that process will take? What are we looking at for that? Because that's not only the move, but you got to get everything coordinated.
Exactly. Actually, what will happen is when we start the move in the summer of 2014 of all of our departments into the building, we will have to still be functional. We can't shut down functions. So we, from that standpoint, the public will not see any interruption in service.
Correct.
So to answer your question is, once we start moving in, we just start moving in. It's no, but we'll hope to complete that move within about 45 days. Get everybody moved in and get situated. But so sometime in the early fall, we should be moved in and fully operational without any temporary measures to keep services going.
Sure. Now, phase 3, of course, is the demolition of the current building, the one we're sitting in right now. Of course, we'll be out of this before anything like that happens. But when that happens, you know, people think, is it going to be the big boom, or is it, how's that going to come down? How's that process involved?
Well, actually, I'll tell you what will happen. Once we move everybody out of the building into the new building,
Yes.
What it's going to look like for probably the first 45 to 60 days, like nothing is happening to
Right.
the building. But what's going on inside the building has to be abated first. There's hazardous material that has to be abated. That'll take somewhere in the neighborhood of probably 45 days to go through, remove all the asbestos material, lead paint material, these things. Keep in mind, this building was built in 1962 and 1964. So those products are still in the building, although not exposed to the public,
Sure.
but they're still as part of the deep construction. That has to be abated prior to demolition, and then a demolition will happen. Now, it won't be a big explosion. It'll come down piece by piece,
Sure,
but
sure.
that process will probably take another 30 days or so. So you're looking at probably somewhere between 60 to 90 days between the time you start abatement until the time you see the building completely gone.
Correct.
And then, of course, the site work, as Patrick has mentioned, the site work for the remainder of the project will commence after that.
Got it. Well, again, you know, as we talked off the top, again, the purpose of this facility is not only to, you know, replace a very aging building that really needs a lot of work, I guess I'll just frame it like that, but it's also, again, the enhancement of services. And before we leave everyone today, I'd like just to reemphasize that as far as, again, the improvements, the enhancements that we're going to be able to generate from this new facility for the customers that we serve, both residents and businesses alike.
I think there's an expectation that all of us have as citizens that when we interact with the city or any governmental agency, that the various departments and various agencies interact well with one another, and that all services are coordinated in a very comprehensive way. And that's how we envision this building helping us, by providing workspaces that allow us to do that, workspaces that allow transactions to flow from department to department, and for an ease of transaction from the citizen and the person who is providing the service. So that's, again, if there's one major underlying goal of this facility, that's what we want to accomplish.
Right. Okay, well, guys, I appreciate you being with us today, and of course, hopefully have you back here as the process evolves and moves through. Again, a pretty fast-moving process, but again, as Gary pointed out, you know, you'll see it kind of in stages. You might think, well, what? And then next day, boom, something really big is going to be going on. So again, a very exciting time to be here in the city of Suffolk. And again, we welcome you to come out, you know, take a look at what's going on while you're here conducting your business with the city. But again, we're all looking forward to that, I guess, late summer, early fall next 2014.
That's right.
When this dream will become a reality here in downtown Suffolk here with the new Municipal Center and the E911 call center. So that will do it for this edition of On the Scene. We'll see you next time.